Some names and faces stick with you forever, and it's always a story behind those ones that leave a scar on your soul. There's a dark side to the justice system that a lot of people don't like to talk about, or they're just oblivious to it. This episode is in memory of somebody that didn't make it out like I did. See, they tell you that the system is designed to help, but what they don't tell you is that in all truth, that shit really just picks you up, chews you up, and spits you out in pieces if you even make it out. And she didn't. And you are now tuned in to Queen's Podcast, Against All Odds, where no topic is off limits, truth has no filter, and my pain became my power. Being quiet never saved me. I'm just here to share my experience, because those reality checks were hard, but I became the storm that they couldn't withstand, and rising above it is rare. I'm your host, Queen C, and around here, we don't sugarcoat. We turn our stories into strength and figure this shit out. After my first episode aired, one of my old probation officers reached out to me. She told me she had seen it and she loved it and she was very proud of me. And she used to work real close to the probation officer that I told you guys was like a father to me. And she told me, like, I just want you to know he loved you and he was very protective over you. And that felt really good to hear. But it also made me think about, although there were some good ones, there was more bad ones. And they weren't there to help. They say the main purpose of the juvenile justice system is to guide kids back on track instead of throwing them away. It's supposed to offer things like guidance and support and counseling and things that they know these children need. But in all truth, sometimes you end up worse off than you were when you first got there. And a lot of that shit does more harm than good. It's supposed to be rehabilitation over punishment. That's what they would like a lot of people to believe. But in my opinion, from the things that I've experienced, that shit is all about funding and a check. But they dress it up real nice. They'll make it seem like, we're going to provide these kids with the tools and the resources, and we're going to take care of them. We're going to protect them. And then they end up placing you in the care of people who prey on you. You end up being whatever's in that file. Whatever someone's evaluation of you was, whatever information they were able to gather from the outside looking in, it's going to go in that file. And that's what's going to follow you. That's what's going to label you. And when you're a child, you don't always have a voice. You don't always have the strength or the courage to be able to speak up for yourself when you know that something is wrong. And a lot of times at that age, you're so easily manipulated that you can't even see when something is going on. And other times, you're labeled so troubled that nobody's going to believe you anyway. It took a long time before anybody listened to me. And more often than not, they never did. I was labeled that troublemaking kid. So anything I said was viewed as she's just trying to cause some trouble. That's why I have such a high respect for that probation officer I was telling you guys about, because he listened. I think it was like my third group home. I was sent to this city called Red Bluff, California. And although it was only a couple hours where I was from, it felt like I was picked up and dropped off on another planet. It was so different than what I was used to. I think at that point I hadn't even heard of the city. It was a whole different world. But I'll never forget the director came to pick me up. Her name was Brenda, big lady. And she came with her daughter, which was already like, kind of strange, because usually when a group home picks you up, it's pretty professional. But I knew from the minute I got in her van, it was a Chevy van, and it reeked of cigarettes, and it was hella dirty. It was packed. She had a little dog with her. I remember instantly thinking like, oh shit, here we go. So we're on this drive and it's a few hours away, and this lady is chain smoking cigarettes. Like, it was very different than what I was used to at that point. So we got kind of close to Red Bluff. I don't remember exactly how far, but she stopped at this convenient market gas station type thing. And I remember her taking forever in there. And I was like, damn, what the hell? Like, the hell is going on? So I asked the daughter, like, can I use the bathroom? And she said, yeah, go ahead. So I go in there, and when I walk in, this woman is sitting at a slot machine. Now, in that area, that's pretty common. They had like 3 slot machines in this gas station. And she's sitting there smoking her cigarettes and playing the slot machine. And it was at that moment I was like, okay, we're in for a ride. But of course, at my age, I jump on the opportunity. Shit, now I'm thinking like she might be a little cool. So I stole some snacks while I was in there, and I went back to the van and I waited, and I sat in that van with that daughter for probably like an hour while that woman played the damn slot machines. So we finally get to the group home, and I remember when we were pulling in to the lot that it was on, I was looking around like, what the fuck? It was like literally in the woods. It felt like it was surrounded by these big huge trees. It was like uncomfortable. Anyhow, when I got in the house, I remember immediately feeling like this ain't gonna work. There's no way. Every single person in there was white except for one girl. She was Hawaiian. And the staff, everybody. And I'm not racist. I'm not uncomfortable at all around any race. But the way that they were looking at me had me thinking that they were racist. That everybody, even the girls in there, everybody was it just was a very awkward moment. So I'm sitting down and I'm quiet. I'm waiting on the other staff to come out because they're going to take me through my check-in process. Basic shit, answer questions. They're going to be filling out paperwork and emergency contact, all that good stuff. So the staff that's asking me all this stuff, she's very dry. She's not welcoming at all. It was just a very like cut dry process. And when she was done, she was like, okay, let me show you to your room. And she's walking me down the hallway, but she's passing all of the rooms. So I was like looking around like, okay, where the hell are we going? And she walks me back through the kitchen area, and there's a door in the kitchen and it has some stairs. And she was like, this is where you're going to be at for the next 2 days. And I was like, what? I remember looking down and then looking at her, and I was like, what? And she was like, yeah, this is where everybody goes for the first 2 days to make sure you're not detoxing off of any drugs or anything like that. And I was like, you picked me up from juvenile hall. Like, what the hell are you talking about? But at this point, this is another staff. And like I said, this one was just very dry. Like her energy was it was just cold, very cold. And I was like, I'm not going down there. It was hella dark. And the only thing that you could see were like, a couple of the stairs. And I remember the lady Brenda coming out of her office, and she was like, you're going in there. And she said it real stern. And I remember just like shaking my head like, fuck. So I walked down, and it was definitely like a basement that they must have turned into a room because it had cement floors, and it was just a cot, like, one of those little mini fold up beds. It was that with a blanket and a pillow. And there was a shelf that had like a little light on it, but it wasn't a regular light. I don't know what kind of light that was, but it was like a little light was on there. So it was like very dim in the room. Like it just looked real gloomy. But as I'm walking down the stairs, I stopped and I turned around and I was like, can I take a shower? And they were like, no. And they shut the door. And I go and I sit on the thing and I'm like, the fuck? Like I remember immediately thinking like, the minute I can call Rich Blake, which was my PO that I keep telling you guys about, I'm gonna cuss him out. That's the first thing I thought. I'm gonna cuss him out because where the fuck am I at? I don't remember how long had passed before I got back up off the bed, but I went to the door and I tried to open it and it was locked. And so I'm banging on the door now. I'm starting to like not panic, but I'm uncomfortable. And I'm knocking for a while, and that woman came back and she opened it like real irritated, like I had agitated her. And she was like, what do you want? Why do you keep knocking? And I was like, can you put a TV down here? Can I get a Walkman, something? And she's like, no. And I told you you're going to be down here for 2 days. Go have a seat. And she shut the door again. So I went back to the bed and I laid on it and I just laid there until I fell asleep. And I don't know what time it was that I woke up, but I woke up and it was pitch black and that light thing had shut off. So I walked back over to it and I'm like fiddling around with it. I think it was like a lantern or something because it had one of those carry things on it. And I couldn't get it to turn back on. And so I went back up the stairs to the door and I'm banging on it. Now I'm banging loud because hell no, it could be mice down here, anything. Now I'm banging. And they didn't come back to that door. So I'm banging. And maybe like 15 minutes later, one of the girls came by the door and she's like, hey, like, you better stop banging. And I was like, no, go get the fucking staff. Like, the fuck, the light thing shut off. And she's like, okay, I will. And she left and didn't come back to that damn door. So I'm sitting on the bed and I'm just like, now I can't even sleep. I can't make myself fall asleep because I'm wondering what is this? What is going on? And maybe about, I don't know, hours. I have no idea how long. I remember they came back and they flashed a flashlight down there. And I was like, hey, excuse me, like, I need you to turn this light on. And before I could finish my sentence, whoever that was that flashed the flashlight slammed the fucking door. So I lay down and I remember I started crying because at this point, now I'm scared. Like, now I'm really like, what the fuck is this? This is not anything close to the other process that I'm used to with the other group homes. It was completely different. It just seemed really, really weird. And I just cried until I fell asleep. But I was so scared of being in that dark because you could hear a lot of movement outside. I don't know if it was upstairs. I don't even know where the noises were coming from, but you could hear a lot of stuff. So like I was trying to listen, but I was like, I felt like I was in like a little bit of shock or something. Like I just didn't even know what to expect at this point. So I finally fell asleep. And when I woke up, somebody had opened that door. It was a whole new staff. It was a guy. And he was like, hey, you can come up and eat. And as I was coming up, I was like, I have to use the bathroom. He's like, go ahead. It's down the hall. And then, come eat. So when I came back in, all the girls are sitting at the table and they're talking. Everything's normal for them. And I remember the Hawaiian girl, she's sitting at the end of the table and she's quiet. Like she's not mingling as much as the other ones at all, actually. So I sat in front of her and I was getting my food. The food was really good, or I was just really hungry. But I tore that food up and I was like, can I get more? And they were like, no. Like it was just a very cold, like it felt like tension, but not tension. It just was like be quiet, don't ask for stuff type of thing. And like I said, at this point, I'm from the Bay Area. We're very diverse. So these people were completely different than the people that I was used to being around. Just the way they talk, to the way they sound, the whole vibe was just. And so I was sitting there for a second and I was just thinking, and I'm in the midst of feeling like now I kind of want to go off, but I'm also still feeling like I'm just watching everything, I guess, at this point. So I was like, well, can I take some food with me back to the room? And they were like, no. And the girl across from me, the Hawaiian girl, she kicked me under the table and she like kind of gave me this look like, be quiet. So I was sitting there, I had like a half of a piece of toast left. And so I'm eating it slow because I really don't want to go back in the room. But she slid me a banana under the table. I'll never forget that. She slid me this banana under the table and I put it under my shirt in my waistband. And then when I was done, I got up, I put my plate in the sink and I started walking back to the room and I was like, how long do I have to be in here? And the guy's like, they didn't tell you that already? And I was like, yeah, but I don't know how long it's been. Like, how much time do I have left? And he's like, well, they'll come get you when it's time, just go. He's like ushering me in the door. So I go back in and I lay back on the bed and it's black. It's pitch black, but I know that it's morning time because we just ate breakfast. And I cried again and I cried again. And it's crazy because still to this day, I'm like petrified of the dark. Don't like being in the dark. I have to sleep with the TV on or something. But anyways, that day was a little bit awkward. They came every couple hours, I think it was, and they were like flashing that flashlight. There was a couple times that I said I have to use the bathroom and they allowed me to use the bathroom, but I had to go right back to that room. So finally, it's my time to come out of the room and I get put in a regular room with one of the other girls in the group home. And now I'm like, they didn't even let me take a shower. And she's like, I don't know. We didn't have to go in that room. And I was like, what? That other lady told me that everybody has to go in there for 2 days. She was like, I didn't go in there. And she was like, she named some of the other girls. She was like, they didn't go in there. And I was like, okay. So now I'm just thinking. So when I start organizing my stuff that's on the bed, they give you like your little toiletries, shampoo, conditioner. So I get my stuff and there's no towel. And I go to the staff's door and I was like, I need a towel. I want to get in the shower. And she's like, like, like I'm really like, what the fuck? Like, you're mad I'm asking for a towel. So she gets up and she goes to the cabinet. She gives me a towel. And I get in the shower and I stayed in the shower for so long, but I cried again. Like, I got to get to a phone. Like, I need to make a phone call because I got to get out of here. That's just what I was thinking. Like, I can't do this. I had already asked them during check-in when I was going to be able to make my call because usually no matter where you go, whether it's juvenile hall, facility, group home, you're allowed to make an intake call as soon as you arrive so you can notify your family of where you're at. And she told me during check-in, I'll let you know, but it's not going to be right now. So while I was in the shower, I was already thinking like, I got to get to a phone. I got to be able to make a call and I need to get out of here. So when I got out the shower, I asked like, am I going to be able to make my call anytime soon? And she was like real snappy. Did I tell you can make your call? And I was like, well, I still haven't notified my family that I've been brought here. And they need to be able to bring me clothes. They need to know where I'm at, something. She said, I'll let you know. So maybe like 30 minutes goes by and she comes to get me and tells me it's time to make my call. They don't let you dial the number. They dial it for you. So I told her, I need to call my PO. He has another number for my mom. I was really lying. I just wanted to be able to call him. I didn't even want to call my family at this point. I need to call him because he needs to come get me. So she dials my PO's number and I remember thinking like, pick up, please pick up. He didn't answer and I left him a voicemail and I was like, you need to call me back as soon as possible. It's really urgent. And when she hangs up, I was like, am I going to be able to try back in a little bit? And she's like, no, you can try again next week. And I'm like, excuse me? Like, usually if you don't get through, they'll let you try back once or twice. She was like, no. So whatever. I went back to my room and I just remember thinking like, this is not going to end well. The next day they called my name and said I had a phone call from my probation officer. And I remember taking off, running down the hallway. And the first thing I said when I grabbed the phone was, where the fuck did you send me to? And like I said, it's no privacy. The staff are right there. So I'm trying to get as much out as I can before they cut me off because I know there's only so much they're going to allow me to say. And I was like, did you even come check this place before you sent me here? These people are weird. They're racist. They made me sleep in the dark. Like, you got to get me out of here. And he's laughing because he thinks I'm joking because I'm so animated. But I was really screaming for help inside. So they start telling me, wrap it up, time's up. And I was telling him like, man, I'm serious. Like, I don't like this place. And he was like, just calm down. It's going to be okay. I'm going to try to get up there soon to come visit you, but stay out of trouble. So I was like, all right. And before we hung up, he was like, listen to me. I need you to stay out of trouble because you don't want to get kicked out of placement. And I was like, all right, okay, I won't. And I remember going back to my room that night, like fuck it. I'm just, I'm going to stick it out. I'm going to try. And over time, like the next few days or so, I tried to just adjust and just deal with it. And the school that we went to, it was on the grounds of the group home. Like I said, it was like a really big place. I don't know how to describe it. I keep saying forest, but it just was like really big grounds. And the school that we went to, it was like, it was only like 2 campers, but it was like, up the little mountain thing. We never had any outside contact with anybody. We never seen like, stores or people or nothing like that. So every day I just started paying attention to my surroundings in there. Every time we would walk to school to those grounds, I would be, looking at the area a lot. And there was like a lot of these little rundown campers. And I don't know if this was the Lady Brenda's family or what, but there was people living in the campers that looked like straight tweakers. Like some of them even had dogs like tied up to the tree right by the camper. It just looked crazy. So anyhow, I didn't really deal with the other girls in that group home at all. I dealt with one girl and that was the Hawaiian girl, but she didn't talk. And it's a trip now because I think back, I have a nonverbal son now. Now that I think back, I always wonder, like, I wonder if Miley was nonverbal because she talked to me, but it was very, very minimal, and she didn't talk to anybody else. Like, you rarely heard her ever say words or anything, but she really, really took to me. We would be in the TV room and she would come and like lay on my shoulder. She would come chill in my room, sit on my bed, but it was like without words a lot. So anyhow, um, as time goes on, it's been a couple weeks now, and they start talking about this camping trip that's coming up and how every year they take the girls on a camping trip. And I remember when the staff walked out, one of the girls, she said something that really, really made my antennas come up. She said some shit. I can't even remember exactly what she said, but it was something like, "Oh shit, the famous camping trip." And I was like, fuck she mean by that? But I didn't trust these bitches to talk to them like that. Like, I didn't vibe with them, they didn't vibe with me, so I just didn't trust them like that. And I remember thinking like, she mean by that? Like, what the hell? But again, I still just kept pushing on, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna just get through this program so I could get home. I really, really wanted to go home, and I didn't want to have to ruin the program. Part of me felt like, you got to get out of here. The other part was like, I'll be okay. My PO's gonna come see me in a little bit. Shit will get better. Then I ended up getting approved for my family to come up and visit me one time, and they came. My dad brought my sister to visit me, and it felt really good. They brought me some clothes. So I kind of was like, I'll be okay. But as time goes on, now it's a couple more weeks, they're starting to talk heavy about this camping trip, and just something just didn't feel right about this camping trip. And then one day I'm in the kitchen, and the staff is in there, and it's this dude, and he starts like talking to me about how he just got out from doing 17 years. And it wasn't in a sense to where he was like telling me about it. I felt like he was like trying to like scare me with it. But I remember trying to act like, and like, I'm like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I didn't want him to think that he scared me with it. But something about the way that he was talking to me, it just was like, it wasn't normal. I remember laying in bed that night, and I was just replaying everything in my head, from the comment that the girl made to the way that that staff was talking. And it just wasn't right. And I remember making my mind up like, I'm not going camping with these people. It's no telling what they're going to do to us. So we're a few weeks out from the camping trip. And I remember thinking like, I can't run away because I don't even know where the nearest town is. I don't know how far we are out from people. If I run, they're probably gonna catch me walking down the street or some shit. I didn't know anything, like, and I'm too far from home to have any of my folks come get me. I didn't really see a way out. And like I said, the girls in there, they didn't vibe with me, and I didn't vibe with them. And one girl said something on the wrong day at the wrong time, and I felt like that was my way out. And I ran in her room and I beat the shit out of her. And I knew what was coming with that. I knew I would be arrested. But in my opinion, I would rather go back to juvenile hall and be there. I'll be safe there. I'll be the fuck away from here, and I won't be on that camping trip. When the police came, I don't know why I still fought them. Like, my whole plan was to do this so I could go back. And for whatever reason, I still tried to fight them when they came. So it ended up being like a really big dramatic scene. They ended up grabbing me and slamming me on the ground. And Miley came running out of her room, screaming, crying at the top of her lungs. I had never heard that girl make so much noise the whole time I had been around her, but she was just crying and yelling, no, no. She was trying to get to me. And I remember feeling so bad, like, damn, I got to leave her here. I'm never going to see her again. We're not from the same county. So I knew it would be the last time I seen her. And for some reason, I didn't have it well thought out in my head, because I figured I would go right back to my juvenile hall where I'm from. But instead, I was booked into the juvenile hall in that county. And that's when I realized, okay, everybody in the area is racist. Because when I was getting booked in, it was like some shit out of a movie. Like, who the fuck you think you are, spick? I had never been called a spick in my entire life. So I was just like shell shocked, completely shell shocked. They charged me with assault with great bodily injury. So I sat there for a while, and I remember being in my cell one day, and I could hear the noise like somebody was coming down the hallway. And I remember like looking out, I was at the cell door looking out, and they stopped at my door and they were like, "Get your shit, you're getting ready to get transferred." And when they popped my door and I went walking out, I seen my PO standing there. But I was like, finally. And he was like, "What the hell, kiddo?" He always called me kiddo. But we're still like behind the glass door. So when the door opens, I remember just running and I damn near like jumped in his arms and I gave him a big old hug because I ain't never been so happy to see him in my life. And he was like, "What am I going to do with you?" And I was like, "No, what am I going to do with you? Do you know what's been going on? I haven't ate today." And the same exact way that I was real animated on the phone that day trying to get it all out was the same way that I was trying to get it all out about what they had been doing to me in that juvenile hall. Because that shit was crazy. Like, because I wasn't from that county, they labeled me as a flight risk, which means they didn't have to allow me out with the other people that were there, but they were still supposed to let me out at least by myself. And they weren't even doing that. There was several days when I didn't come out at all. So I'm trying to get it all out and tell on them in their face with my PO there because I just felt like, like, yeah, like now I got somebody with me. And he was getting mad. He turned and he was asking one of the staff, like, "What have you guys been doing to her?" And I was like, "They've been doing this. Da, da, da." But again, my delivery was like, it was so animated that it was almost like, just calm down, just calm down. Let's just go. So he shackled me and he had brought someone else from probation because a male can't transport a female by themselves. So he brought someone else and you could tell she was in training because she was really, really quiet. And the whole way back, soon as I got in the transport car, I was just yapping and yapping and yapping. And I was like so happy to be back. I didn't even care that I was going back to juvenile hall. I was just so happy that I was out of there. But I remember telling him, like, "You better not send anybody else there. Like, I'm telling you, those people are weird. And, it's just not cool. They're racist." And he was like, "Why did you beat that girl up like that?" And I was like, "What do you mean? I had to get out of there. You didn't come get me. I told you to come get me. It's your fault." And he's laughing. And I was telling him, like, "You owe me. Like, I need to eat something good," because I knew he was going to stop and get food on the way back because it's such a long drive. But I was like, "Can we eat good at least? Like, you owe me that for sending me to that place." And he ended up stopping at the Elephant Bar, which is a restaurant. And I remember telling him, like, "I don't want to be shackled going in there. I don't want the people to look at me like that." And he was like, "No, you ain't going to run on me." I was like, "I promise I'm not going to run. Like, just don't let me go in there in shackles." And he ended up looking at me, he gave me this look. And I was like, "I promise I'm not going to run. I promise. Like, I don't even care. I don't even care that I'm going back." And he unshackled me. And we went in there and we sat and all of us had lunch. And I told him during that conversation, I was like, "You better not send anybody else there. I'm telling you, that place is not cool. Like, not at all." And I meant that. So after I get booked back into my county, all the staff, they're like scolding me. And we just had that kind of rapport to where they would really get on me when I messed up and came back. But this time I was like, I don't give a fuck about being back. I wasn't staying at that group home. And matter of fact, you guys need to go check on the other girls that are there and contact their counties and get them out of there. And it was almost like they were hearing me, but not hearing me. Like they were, kind of just brushing me off. And it was what it was. And it wasn't a short time later, one of the staff that I was cool with, she was like, "You're not going to believe it." And I said, "What?" And she said, "That group home is getting shut down and all the girls that are there are getting transferred back out because one of them came up pregnant by the staff." And I was like, "I told you. I tried to tell you guys." And it was really at that moment I could tell, the look on her face. She gave me that look like, "You were telling the truth." Yeah, I was. So I'm in juvenile hall with one of these girls and she was a mess. Nobody could deal with this girl. She was always working everybody's nerves, but you could tell that she didn't care. She didn't care how anybody felt about her. She just was her own free spirit. She didn't care to get along with any other staff. She didn't care to mingle with any other people. She was just her own person. She ends up getting transferred to a group home in San Jose. And then shortly after, I got transferred to that same group home. Now, I was already familiar with this one because that was my second group home that I went to, but I messed up there and that's how I got kicked out. And then I ended up at that terrible group home. So being back at this one, I was like much more relieved. Even though the program was really strict, there still was no weird shit. It was all women that worked there. I knew people in the city. I knew how it went, so I was like, happy to be back there versus any other one. So anyway, when I get there, she's already been in so much trouble. Like her ass was cutting up. But they ended up putting her in the room with me, and I started to notice that she was acting up because she didn't have anything or anybody. Like nobody came to visit her. Nobody brought her clothes. Nobody there she just had nobody. And I gave her like a lot of my clothes, and I noticed that every time I would like give her stuff or just help her feel a little better, she act better. She would be in a good mood and she would be happy, and even though she worked my nerves in juvenile hall, she grew on me at this group home. And so we would be up late. I started to like really like, just get to know her. She wasn't somebody that I would like kick it with, but since we're in a room together, we talked a lot. And I got to know a lot about her, and she was telling me how, when she wasn't in juvenile hall or in group homes, she used to live with her mom, and they were homeless, and they spent a lot of time in this place called the Boardwalk, which is in Santa Cruz in California. And she was like, we lived under the boardwalk, and they did drugs together, and she just had a really, really, really bad upbringing. She was telling me how her mom used to smoke meth with her and make her have sex with her boyfriend. And her dad had went to prison, and he killed himself while in prison. And I remember thinking like, damn, like, she been through hell and back. And I was like, where's your mom at now? And she was like, I don't know, somewhere out there. And I was like, okay. It helped me understand her a lot. And I seen how much more she felt better about herself when I gave her clothes, and when she was just able to, just have somebody at least that, was kind of cool with her. But I remember her telling me like, I can never go back. She spent so much time on the street, literally free. Like, she wasn't used to living in a house. And that group home, we did outings. Once a month, they took us on outings. Plus, we went to outside schools and stuff like that. She would do stuff like it was her natural personality to do, like, homeless shit. Like, she would pick up cigarette butts off the ground and hide them in her pockets, and little things like that. And I used to be telling her like stop, you cannot, that's gross. Like, don't do that. But that's what she was used to. And so I remember her always stressing the point to me like, I will never go back. I will never go back to jail. I cannot do it. I'm not being locked up anywhere anymore. And I was like, I didn't think nothing of it. But anyway, she always was messing up, doing stuff like stealing food. Her mess ups weren't like, fighting or getting in trouble like that. It was always for doing shit that you could tell she was used to doing on the streets. Like I said, she would be the one trying to pick the lock. That group home locked up all of their food. Locks on the fucking refrigerator, locks on the cabinets. She would get in trouble for picking the locks, trying to steal the food. She would be, trying to steal the hygiene stuff that they had, and the cigarette butts when we were out. Just little things like that she kept getting write-ups for. And I used to tell her like, why do you do that? Like what is wrong with you? Why do you do that? And she would like laugh it off. It was no big deal to her. She was used to that. So one day she gets a write up, and one of the staff, they came one day and they were like, hey, you want to ride to the store? And they were asking her this, and I'm like, she's always in trouble. How the hell she get to ride to the store? We don't never get to go to the store. And I remember looking at the staff like, the fuck? And it was a red flag for me, but I didn't say anything. I kind of kept it to myself. I don't know why I didn't think to be like, huh? But she was so excited. She was like, yeah, I want to go to the store. And when the staff left, I remember asking our house staff, that was a C3, which is like a staff above the staff. I remember asking our regular staff, like, why did they let her go to the store? And she was like, oh, she's going, your PO is going to be picking her up. They're going to take her back for a timeout. So they had these things called timeouts, to where if you were messing up in the group home, you wouldn't get like a permanent termination. You would get like a timeout, to where you got to go sit in juvenile hall for the weekend or a week, and then they'll bring you back and start your program over. And that's what they were doing. So they were basically tricking her. And I was like, what? And when the C3 came back, I was like, how did it go? Like, I felt bad, but I was like, it's only a timeout. She'll be right back. And I remember her, like, it was terrible. Like, soon as she seen us pull up and your PO was there, she jumped out the car and took off running, and he had to chase her down. Now, mind you, this is my PO, that the one that I'm really close with. And it was like, kind of like laughs and giggles for a minute. Cause like I said, I'm like, oh, she's only going on a timeout, but damn, that's fucked up. So the very next day, I had got suspended from school. So I didn't leave for school that day. Everybody else left. It was just me and the staff at the house. And I remember the phone ringing. And I remember Esther, that was her name. She screamed really loud. And I don't know what inside of me knew instantly that phone call was about Suzanne. And I remember she shut the door. I heard the office door slam. And I went and I stood by the door and I was listening. She was like, no, when? And when she got off the phone, she opened the door and I was standing there and I looked at her and I said, it's Suzanne, huh? And she just looked, she was crying really bad. And she was like, yeah. And I was like, what happened? And she just shook her head. She just shook her head. And I was like, is she dead? And she was like, yeah. I knew when they asked that girl to go to the store that something wasn't right with that. And I didn't think to really tell her, like, girl, run. I ain't think nothing of it. And then even after I found out what they were doing it for, she was already gone by that point. But I didn't even it didn't register to me to be like, hey, you guys should watch her or anything. So when Esther finally calmed down, she didn't talk that whole day. She didn't talk for a couple hours after I said, is she dead? And she said, yeah. I went back to my room and I just laid on the bed. And all her stuff was still on her side of the room. And I just was like laying there thinking about her. And finally when I did talk to Esther, which was a couple hours later, I was like, what happened? She was like, she committed suicide. And I just kept thinking, like, she told me. She told me that she was never going to go back. She could never do it again. And she always repeated that. She always repeated that. And she meant it. They asked me to pack her stuff up later that night. They brought a box in the room. And I remember packing her stuff up thinking, like, she don't even have anybody to come pick this stuff up. That shit was that shit was really sad. I ended up talking to one of the staff from my county that I was cool with later on, and I was like, what happened to Suzanne Kennedy? Like, tell me the story from that day. She was telling me how everybody had went to the dining hall. She passed on the meal, and when you're allowed to pass up, if you don't want to go out and eat, you'll just stay in while everybody else goes. And while they were at the dining hall, she put her door cover up, which is what you would put up if you have to, like, use the bathroom or something. And she hung herself with her sheet. And when they came back from the dining hall, they were like knocking on the door because they'll check on you and you're supposed to move your door cover or tell them you're using the bathroom. And I guess when they knocked on her door, they didn't get a response. So when they opened it, she was already hanging, and she was dead. And it just was like, damn, that was a turning point for me. I really understood that, everybody has a story, and sometimes you never know what somebody is mentally going through. But you should definitely listen to them. You should listen to them when they talk, because she was serious. She said that being, inside of a cell, it wasn't good for her, and that she would never go through it again. She said it too. I remember her telling me, I would rather be dead. Damn. There are some staff that are really good, and they're there to really make a difference. And some of them have made a huge difference. Um Next episode, you guys are going to be able to meet one of those people that has made a big difference in my life. Actually became one of the closest people to me, still to this day. But, unfortunately, for as many good ones there are double the ones that are not there to make a difference. They're there to take advantage of the situation and use their position as power. One thing I learned early on was, once I seen that, you know, there's bad people in this world, all I got to do is see it one time, and you'll never get another chance to take advantage of me like that. So I was able to spot the red flags anytime after that, and I would get out of the way, one way or the other. Some of the stuff that I shared with you guys in this episode, the person that's coming for the next episode, she'll be able to tell you from that side of things and that standpoint what it was like, because she was aware of a lot of it. And I just want everybody else out there who who isn't familiar with this side of life and how the justice system works to know that everybody's not as strong. Um, Everybody doesn't have a voice, and there's a lot of people that slip through the cracks. There's a lot of people that they just deal with it, and bad shit does happen. That system is not designed to help you. It's just a way to shuffle people through. And although it's made to look like, it's in place to take care of us and take care of the kids, it's not really that. It's a lot more behind scenes that people don't understand. So, with that little sneak peek that I just gave you into what episode 5 is going to be about, I want you guys to comment under this video and let me know if there's any questions or different topics that you want to talk about with this person, so I can make sure I get those into episode 5. The channel is growing. I'm excited. If you're not familiar with the community tab, make sure you go over there, because I'm going to be posting there. I can message you guys. Like I said, my biggest thing is I wanted this channel to be able to be more personal, and so far it's going that way, and I really appreciate all of you who have been on this journey with me. I told you already, I didn't expect it to really go this route or start off this way, but it's it's been it's been healing, and it's been emotional. When I look back on my life and realize all of the things that I've been through and I've overcame, it makes me more grateful to be where I'm at now. But for other people, I hope that it enlightens you to see that it don't matter what you come from. It don't matter what you go through. You have the ability to change where you're going. It's really just up to you. I am by far the most perfect person on this earth. And I still got a lot of things I got to work on. But I am very, very, very grateful for how far I've came. Just want to say thank you to everybody who has subscribed. As this channel continues to grow, my goal is to try to give back as much as I possibly can. So with that being said, big shout out to my daughter-in-law, Samaya. She worked really hard behind scenes. While I was filming this episode, she was printing out a list of all of the subscribers and cutting it up so that way we could pull winners. So if I call your name during this episode, make sure you comment below so we can get your contact information and ship your gift out. But with that being said, and the first winner is Jennifer Ivy 2836. You are a winner. The next one is Antoinette D'Amato, Net K. You are a winner. And the last winner is at Trice Time. That's TRICETYME. You are a winner. So, oh, I forgot, you guys. We are also going to pull 2 random winners who have engaged highly with our TikTok videos. I really appreciate you guys too. So this is going to be in addition to, the 3 winners that we pulled. And the winner is redhead_419. You are a winner. And we'll do one more. You want to pull this one? Do you? Let me see. All right. And the last one is Alicia Greenheart. Oh, Alicia with a green heart. ALESHIA. You are a winner. So make sure you guys comment under this video so I can get your contact and shipping information. But again, I really, really appreciate all of you. Don't forget, I have a skincare line, which is Confidence Cosmetics, because the sexiest thing a woman wears is her confidence. So check out those products. Everything will be linked below this video. But I enjoyed being with you guys today. And that's a wrap for today. But I'm going to leave you with this. Never forget it's not too late. Your past doesn't define who you are. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. So keep going. This ain't just a podcast, it's a movement. So be a part of it. Like, follow, share, and subscribe. I'm building a space for everybody out there trying to rebuild what life tried to destroy. Us. Thank you for tuning in to Queen C's Against All Odds podcast. I'll see you next week with more truth, more tea, and more transformation. I'm out, y'all.